Alright Soupsters, we have a new item arriving in the zoo. It is unfortunately an event item, so it will be very rare and hard to max out. However, it is very unique and we will talk about it and its impact in the upcoming meta. But before we get into that, there is a notable change happening in the zoo. Loverboy Milo is finally getting a proper skin to truly reflect his intimate behavior. This new skin will cost 250 gems and is a seasonal limited skin, which means if you do not purchase it during its availability, you will have to wait an entire year to have another chance at obtaining the Lover Milo skin. Let's dive into what this new event item is actually about. Upon initial testing, I find the item very counterintuitive, and that's just one of its problems. Honestly, it is silly and I am unsure why it's being introduced the way that it is. Why do I call it counterintuitive? Well, any item in Zuba that gives you something at a loss is counterintuitive. Take, for example, another event item, Guard's Badge. On first sight, you might think that this is an interesting item as it gains you a bot ally. However, especially in squads, a guard kill is worth so much more as you gain 5 health kits and potentially 5 weapons for your entire team. You might say that you can get the health kit or item during the battle when the guard dies, but there is a significant chance that your guard's dropped items may be looted by your enemy, and also you have an increased chance of not entering a battle with your maximum potential. So what comes at a loss if you equip Pheromone Essence? For the most part, having to give up your active to keep an item working is quite tremendous. Active abilities in Zuba along with passives essentially define a character and make them unique. Not only that, but there is an opportunity cost. You are giving up an item slot which could have been used for another item which doesn't have any drawbacks. For instance, nitro items or a cluster bomb. So how would I fix this item? Step 1. Remove the limiter. Just like how silly it is to punish active players with the burden system, we don't need items with handicaps. Step 2. Increase the radius. You pretty much already have to be next to the enemy to drag them in. Pro players already practice social distancing and will be prepared to use some form of ability to escape you while you are hindered from using your active. Step 3. Increase the speed at which you pull enemies closer to you. For similar reasons already mentioned, it is just too easy to escape this pull. Let's talk about the possible uses of this item as is when this patch goes live. Which hero will this item be the most valuable in? Well, first off, every hero that is not a tank is probably out of the question. Most players will agree that keeping social distance from your enemy is the safest and smartest way to play Zuba. Who wants to be a tanky Nyx anyway? However, those tanks, like every other character, still rely on their active ability to be meaningful or to close gaps. For instance, Bruce on first sight might seem like a great candidate for this item. However, Bruce relies so much on his active for damage and mobility, he actually becomes quite hindered. He already is incredibly slow, and giving up an active to draw enemies which first have to be very close proximity doesn't even make sense. Bruce would have to give up an item in his loadout, he risks using a weaker set than his opponent, which ultimately may lead to a loss. Besides, who in the right mind thinks they want to get anywhere close to that monster ape anyway? Buck suffers a similar issue as his active closes the gap between him and his target while dealing a decent amount of damage. However, with Buck, if equipped with Nitro Spear, Vampire Teeth, Jungle Shoes, and then Pheromone, an argument could be made for value. However, to close the initial gap is still a challenge for him, and your opponent has to be the one to make this mistake. If your opponent does make the mistake of getting too close, they probably would be dead regardless if you had pheromones equipped or not. For instance, giving up an active on Buck is quite huge, but to top it off, giving up Cluster Bomb is even worse. Cluster Bomb combined with Fury has such an incredible short cooldown. The extra damage does make the difference in key fights. Duke, Shelly, Earl also suffered these similar issues. Since their actives define their playstyle, it just seems like a waste of an item slot. Also note that if your opponent is using Healing Canister or any knockback, or happen to have mobility style actives such as Nyx, Molly, Skippy, Steve, or even a Spear Dash ability, they will so easily counter pheromones at its current state. So how do I rate this item? Well, to be honest, it's pretty low on the list, it's kind of trash tier. But there is this scenario where if everything goes right, it will completely destroy any team in the zoo. What are these requirements? You're playing Milo, or you have Holy Sandals equipped, or you're just someone who's good in the water. Your partner is a character with knockback, preferably Helium Canister. Your enemies are not Milo or using Holy Sandals, or just in general not good in the water, and they have no means to escape your pheromones because they can't use their abilities or just something of those sorts. So what does this even look like? Let's find out. So it turns out that this special event item doesn't even work in the water. Honestly, Zuba, what is the point of this item? How are we supposed to use this in any meaningful way given the trade-offs? I truly hope that this item gets a buff sooner or later, and I honestly wish I wasn't disappointed, but I am. So good luck out there in the zoo. Let's keep our hopes up that this item will see a revamp in the future. And with that being said, take it easy, Zuba fam. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Love all of you, and thank you so much for your support. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Please remember to like, sub, and join to support this channel. Also, if you are interested in really cool Zuba merch, please check out the Redbubble link on your screen.